Okay, so we are back with Anne with an E, Season 3, Episode 8. Oh my gosh, crazy. I am trying to get through these. I want to thank everybody for their patience. Really, things have been crazy, and then Bridgerton kind of took over, but I promise I'm still dedicated to getting these done. I so appreciate the audience from Anne with an E. I still love this show so much, so I want everybody to know that. Regardless of if I'm posting more Bridgerton than Anne with an E, it's not because I don't care about the audience or the show at all. It's just kind of been very overwhelming. But now that I'm done with school, also, that probably opens up a little bit more. But again, I appreciate your patience and understanding so much. I love this show. I love the audience from the show, how thoughtful everybody is. It's just been a really great, community built from it. So let's get into it. I don't really have much to say. This is my look today, my braids, my old-timey You know the vibes, you know the vibes, you know what's happening. You already know. Again, my full-length reactions to these will be on Patreon. They will be on Patreon earlier than YouTube as well, but you can watch the entire episode along with me every single second. And again, comments are so appreciated on this. Again, that is the thing that has really kept me going on them. So, with all that being said, I don't really have much to say to preface this, so let's jump into Anne with an E, Season 3, Episode 8. Oh, we're back here.
Like an animal, heave out the trash, then get back.
He's so small. He's so tiny. Oh.
My lord, are you stupid? Savage and careless. Get the broom.
No, they're plotting an escape. Could you not see that? Oh, God, this is horrific. Oh, period. How is she gonna stay on, though? Surely if she gets far enough, she can. I don't know. You can't trust anybody. It's so horrible.
You're half an hour early. So are you. Now that I think of it, I forgot my hair ribbon.
So are they on good terms again, or no? Were they both trying to avoid each other by coming early or something? What did they... Did they burn down the school? I did wonder, but I thought, that's crazy. Surely not.
Yes, this is a vile, spineless act, but it's proof positive that we made an impact. Kudos to you.
That's a way to look at it. Surely they can still, for the most part, teach and be taught, even without a roof.
You cannot hold us down. Burn our school, we will rise. We will take your fear and turn it into
She doesn't know, Gwen. Oh.
But never would I have imagined.
Because it's unimaginable.
It's crazy. It's really crazy to do. I'm so worried. Yeah, I mean...
Thank you. It's exhilarating seeing the change in Mrs. Lynn.
Hey, Beth. Can I borrow your pen?
We took a stand and accomplished something, despite the repercussions.
Maybe because of them.
True.
I believe we can fix people. Save them. We just haven't figured out how. I would give anything to be there when we do.
Period. He's actually the harbinger of modern medicine. As if he couldn't have been more of a sleigh.
We meant to have the place shining by the time you...
There was a commotion this morning in town. What devil did you sell your soul to that you got two white maids falling all over themselves not to vex you?
No devil. Hazel LaCroix,
Oh my
Miss Lorna
God.
Cuthbert and Mrs. Richard.
That is so funny.
Baby
The music is very interesting, the chimes.
Who says being romantic is any less respectable than being studious? Ask Gilbert. He's the most studious, and he's romantic.
Well, we're not being romantic. There's no
Not with you, Anne. With Winifred.
And bring your fiancé.
I'm proud of Anne for the way she handled that. I really am. That was rough.
We're apples and oranges. It just doesn't make sense.
We're always, as you say, apples and oranges. Why now is the difference?
It's not. It's just...
That's a good point.
It's just that you told Anne, and I thought we were keeping this secret.
Because
And
I'm not good enough for you.
would you stop saying that? You're being rude and aggressive, and I will not stand for it. Here, take them.
Diana. Okay. I actually never foresaw Diana doing anything that would annoy me so much. She's being a tad bit awful. The music is very interesting this episode.
Take them. Give yourself the option. Don't condemn yourself to someone else's idea of who you should be. Times have changed. Go to college. Learn.
I am going to learn.
Oh, how to marry well?
The course of study is varied.
Which dress to wear, which smile.
It would be one thing if she, really wanted all that stuff, but I don't, she's not particularly longing after, like, the life of a wife, specifically, necessarily. I think she doesn't really know, is the point. She doesn't really know which she would prefer, which she would want.
I wasn't sure where you sit. Does it look all right? Would you like anything else, Mr. Blythe? Oh, no.
Thank you. Gilbert.
Stop.
Please.
This is sick and twisted. I'm gonna cry.
And
Sit. I'm sure Mr. Blythe doesn't like baby in his face when he's trying to eat. Tastes all right, Mr. Blythe?
Wow, I really
really is
did
fine,
not
and it's
foresee
delicious.
this making me so upset.
Get too comfortable, they'll turn on you. Did no one teach you to know your place?
Suppose that was your job. Had you been around to do it?
I get what she's saying, and it's interesting because most times she actually probably is correct. Unfortunately, she's probably right. She just doesn't understand that it's not that type of thing. It's hard for people to understand.
Excited?
Unfortunately, because it's not the norm.
Good luck!
Oh, they love Anne so much. I don't... This is awful. Ugh, God, this is giving me literal PTSD. Standardized testing. Oof. Terrible.
But he's always so damned prompt. Sorry.
Again, the music, very interesting.
Pardon me, Miss Stacy.
Ever been fighting, backwards thinking long enough in this town. Now this? Why would I stay and live my life around people frozen in time? You can't.
I'm seeing a
make
vision.
teacher feel-
Who's with Delphine? The ladies?
My mother. So I know something about your murderous feelings.
I see the vision. Is that... Oh. Is that alcohol? Wow.
Time for some masculine discourse.
Ah, code for brandy and cigars.
And a distinct lack of femininity. I don't recommend it.
Which?
2 out
Period.
of 3.
Nothing like a snifter and a stogie to accompany musings of the future.
Okay.
But your ears have been burning of late. I'm
This is so
responsible.
weird. Drinking has never been a thing for them before, and then, like, now they're... Interesting.
Not to mention we have that flat in the 4th arrondissement.
This is
Winnie
very
Dawson.
generous.
A thoughtful man with an eye to the future is a needle in a haystack.
So true.
And if you're awaiting my blessing, son, it's granted.
Wow. He's like, but I'm kind of in love with someone else. Oh my god! This is so weird seeing them all like this. Okay, holding hands. This is cute, seeing them bond and just have fun and be some version of kids. Yeah, Gilbert, you're seeing her in a slow motion montage set to emotional music with wind in her hair. I think maybe you want to be with her. Maybe that might be an indication that you're obsessed with her and in love with her. But I don't know. Maybe not.
You don't want to be a country doctor. Sorbonne is your dream. Winifred is lovely and her parents are supportive. I don't understand. What's holding you back?
Not the look at the lips!
Just one thing.
I don't know what to say.
Are-
What am I supposed to? And everyone is now. And now you just and I'm.
pirate, and we never even end at Paris's, and you are never gonna find that much, I know. So how can
I can't believe did they just pretty much like acknowledge it? That's crazy. I can't believe that. But then Anne was who knows what she was trying to say. That was so confusing. No, oh, Gilbert, it's not rejected. So crazy. We finally I can't believe that just happened. I'm actually really shocked about that.
Will you do me the honor
Don't
of becoming my wife?
tell me. No, stop him. Dead ass.
ring?
What? Is she trying to take that as a sign? Like, what's happening? This is so crazy. We're getting to proposals all of a sudden. Things escalated so quickly.
How can I help you? I heard you say Aunt Jo is here. I came to speak with her. My aunt is visiting me, yes.
Diana,
Let Miss Barry know that she has a visitor.
you are really starting to piss me off.
Do you love this Gilbert Blythe?
Yes.
And how can I be sure enough to say, sure, take option 2 when option 1 is
that's
all
true.
he wants for his
What?
future?
That's a very
Option what?
sweet and selfless
This girl.
type of thing. Well, because I get what she's saying, because it's also like, she's like, if I tell him not to do it and then we don't end up together, like, did I just ruin his life?
Love is a tricky thing. Sometimes it feels like an undeniable force that hits between the eyes and doesn't let up. Other times it's malleable, questionable. It's truth hidden in and amongst, well, external obstacles and internal circumstances that have formed who you are, what you
monologue.
expect in the world, and how you
Absolutely.
can accept love.
Hold on. I've wiped down Master's table.
Gilbert is so confused.
First, the little baby.
Bless him.
Posing.
Yes. My answer is yes. I have to get up for this because basically what you're saying is that I win. I knew it. I knew it. It was always on from the moment you got her letter on the ship.
You're
I
absolutely
called it
correct.
lover. I win.
She said no. Basically.
Oh. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's so hard.
So, Anne is behind you.
And Winifred is my future.
Winnie's great. They could have a happy life. You know what I mean? It's not a bad prospect, especially because it's like all his dreams are coming true and she's lovely and smart and they do get along. She's just not Anne.
This is preposterous.
No need to be hysterical.
Period.
Need I remind, and I'd be happy to talk about that to every soul in town, every day, for the next 10 years, or until you die, whichever comes first. This is a promise. While denial is your forte, spreading news convincingly and relentlessly is mine.
She's got a point.
We add 3 women to the board.
Period.
A gender balance, and this all goes away.
That's what? Oh my god, did she make it? Oh. I could cry. And I might.
I'm so sorry, Anne. I'm sorry, too. I want to be braver than I've been. I don't want to lie anymore.
I solemnly swear to be faithful to my bosom friend, Anne,
For as long as the sun and moon shall endure.
I can't with these two. Oh my gosh. They are still so funny.
And it may be too late.
Now kiss? Like, what is going
I'm in love with Gilbert Blythe.
Yeah, for real. Took you long enough. She's catching up with the rest of us. Okay, so excuse the quality of this audio. I had to record this separately. I didn't have time to record a commentary or a discussion section for this episode. So for Anne with an E season 3 episode 8, that was definitely a good episode. There was a lot going on, a lot of storylines seemingly both starting and wrapping up. We have Coquette obviously escaping, which was harrowing, as was the storyline with Diana and the way that she was treating Anne and Jerry. And also the storyline with Sebastian's mom, that was really difficult to kind of watch. That all of those kind of gave me, all of those were difficult to watch for me. Diana's behavior makes sense, it's in character, but it's just hard to see her like that. I don't like to see her, it seems kind of like a backslide, which is, she's allowed to do. That's a very realistic thing. People backslide all the time, but it was just tough seeing Diana kind of revert to older ways that had been there before Anne's influence, and I just didn't enjoy seeing it, especially at the expense of people so beloved as Anne and Jerry. The fact that those ancient, decrepit old men burned down a fucking school is crazy. That is lunacy, okay? That is absolutely lunatic behavior. That is so crazy that they did that. But, you know, men really be doing stuff like that. They really do. They don't get their way and then they burn down a fucking building. You know what I mean? Like, it's so crazy. It seems like it should be an exaggeration, and it should, but it really kind of isn't, especially in these times. I mean, I think them challenging the power dynamic and the gender structures and things like that, they really did not take that lightly, and they were not happy about being challenged in that way because they never have been before and they're not supposed to be, especially in this time. I liked Rachel's turn. I always am relieved to see a turn for Rachel, you know, when she's seeing the light. She's been good the last few episodes, but there have been some moments where she's kind of been siding with the men, and, you know, she's had her own journey of being belittled by them and starting to realize, you know, maybe these other people have a point in trying to protest them, and maybe they don't care for women, and maybe they don't care what she has to say and that type of stuff. So that preempted this realization when she realized what they had done, and she was able to flip a switch and turn sides. And like she said in the episode, she's a good ally to have. She absolutely is a very powerful and useful ally to have. So I was glad to see her kind of like change up and switch sides and see the light and be like, oh, okay, well, they're crazy. Like, we need to do something about this. I see why you've been doing something about this all this time, and I appreciate it now. I know the Ruby and Moody storyline has been building up for a long time now, but it still is jarring to me. Like, I don't know, in my head, I guess she's still in love with Gilbert or something. Like, seeing them together and seeing Ruby not, like, fawn over Gilbert, but fawn over Moody instead has been I'm like, whoa, I love to see it. That's what I want. You know what I mean? I would prefer that, but it's still just a little jarring. I do have to say the pace at this point in the season, and it could be because I know that it's ending in a few episodes, but the pace to me feels very fast. It feels like they rushed a lot of things and were trying to cram a lot of things in. So a lot of the arcs, especially in this episode in particular, really stand out as feeling very sudden and incongruous with the rest of the show, because I'm like, wait, we've been doing seasons of this thing, and now all of a sudden we're doing the complete opposite end of the spectrum. You know what I mean? It's like, it seems like a very quick turnaround, if I'm being honest. But, you know, I don't know why that is. There's a million reasons why that could be. I'm sure it's influenced by production and, you know, the renewal or the lack thereof and things like that. I'm sure there's a lot of behind the scenes reasons for why it feels so rushed, but to me personally, it is feeling very rushed at this point. A lot of storylines are kind of just like being wrapped up quickly. I do, however, love the point that Gilbert and Anne are in their relationship. Again, I much prefer this to any of the other stuff that they've been doing where they've been like mean to each other, like fighting or, you know, snarky or, you know, academic rivals, any of that type of stuff. I much prefer them being friends and acknowledging and appreciating each other at the very least. But I was really surprised that they went for it this episode. Like, this is the first time that they have ever acknowledged their feelings to each other, or even maybe to themselves. Gilbert has acknowledged more so than Anne, but I feel like Anne, it's just a recent thing that she's like starting to acknowledge it. So the fact that they actually spoke on it and actually directly referenced it between the two of them, verbally, literally, was very surprising to me. It was like very sudden. I was like, oh, we're doing this. Like, this is happening. Oh, wow. Okay, that came out of nowhere because we've been building up for so long and delaying this exact confrontation. But I did find it interesting that it wasn't like as direct of a confrontation, even though I knew and both the characters knew exactly what they were saying. They didn't actually say it. You know what I mean? So it's very interesting because it was very much a very direct thing that was understood between everybody, but at the same time, they didn't say anything actually explicitly. You know what I mean? Like, it was very clear that they were both, like, confessing their feelings for each other without actually saying the words. But everyone knew what was going on. I clocked into that, and they did too, and it was, yeah, that was really surprising. That was crazy. It shocked Anne, it shocked me. Yeah, she was taken aback, and as was I. The introduction of Sebastian's mother, yet again, it feels a little late. And I just wish there were more episodes, but that being said, it is definitely a very interesting dynamic to bring into it. I didn't expect to get as emotional about it as I did, but it's, you know, you see very clearly the differences. I had been interested in his upbringing and the tidbits that we had gotten to know about his mom's work and their life and their history and things like that beforehand. So it's interesting to have that expanded on a little bit and to see the relationship that they have and also kind of the grudge that Sebastian holds because she wasn't really there for him. She wasn't really mother to him. She was more so, I guess, mothering, you know, the white family that she worked for than actually being there for him, which of course is a valid thing for him to be angry about. But you can see like a generational difference as well and a cultural difference between the two of them that's very stark and very obvious and fascinating. You know, I think that's such a universal thing. We see this all the time in the real world, and I have to assume that it happened back then, and it just makes a lot of sense. It's very true to life, and it's hard to watch. I don't enjoy watching it because it's just tough because I see where both of them are coming from, and both of them have valid viewpoints and are right in a lot of ways, but they're also wrong in a lot of ways, and they're not really totally seeing the other person's perspective. But, you know, she's right to be cautious, generally speaking. It's just frustrating as an audience member because you know that that's not the case. But to be fair, if you think about it objectively, she has no reason to believe that it's not the case. You know what I mean? Like, we know because we've had seasons with these people, she has every right to be skeptical, and she's probably right to be skeptical. It was just difficult to see that disparity there, and then also, like, the way that she reverted, like, her just behavior, like, so subservient, like, so, it just made me, like, feel ill, honestly. I was like, oh my God. And especially, like, there's something about, you know, this, like, older woman who obviously has lived an entire life waiting on this little scrawny kid boy. You know what I mean? That just was a very stark contrast to me. Like, it just was like, ooh, it didn't feel right. You know what I mean? Like, the amount of reverence and respect she was paying to him just felt disproportionate. I understand absolutely why she is acting that way. I mean, she's lived her entire life, it seems like, in servitude, and that's just what she's known. That's what she's been conditioned to do, and honestly, probably what has kept her going in her life, unfortunately. So I'm not saying that it's odd that she's behaving that way, but there's just something about watching it play out that felt very icky to me. And it's supposed to be icky. I mean, it's not supposed to be that way, and I hate that she felt the need to do that. But of course, again, I think she's, like, smart for doing it, probably, for preemptively taking the initiative. She doesn't understand the dynamics that are at play. She doesn't know Gilbert. She doesn't know their relationship. This is all very confusing and foreign to her, and so she's sticking with what she knows, which is probably a smart bet, generally speaking. But it's just, again, like, having the knowledge that we have about Gilbert and Sebastian and their relationship, it's just difficult, like, as an audience member to be like, oh, but it's not that. But I'm not mad at her for thinking that it is. The scene between Diana and Jerry was painful, as all their scenes have been as of lately. Like, it's not surprising to me. I don't like that she dropped the book and the little figurine. That was really, I was like, did we have to drop it, though? Did we have to drop it at his feet? You know what I mean? Did we have to break the figurine? It was a little much. I also really did not like that she weaponized this language of, like, you're being rude and aggressive. That really pissed me off, because Jerry's literally the least aggressive boy man that I've ever seen in my entire fucking life. And so, again, it felt, and again, whether she knows she's doing this or not, or whether that was the intention in the writing, to me, the way that I perceived it and the way that it registered to me, I was like, oh, she's very much, it feels like a weaponizing of a lot of classic gender imbalances and dynamics where men are aggressive and are rude and are hostile toward the woman for no good reason, and they don't deserve to be treated that way. Whereas I don't think that's at all what was happening. But again, it felt like a weaponization of that school of thought. But it just simply wasn't accurate. Like, he was not being aggressive. He really wasn't being rude at all. He was very gentle, very mild-mannered. So I was just like, Diana, why are you trying to pull a stump card on him? You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like what is he supposed to say to that if you're accusing him of being aggressive? That really gives him zero room to express himself or to do anything or to say anything in response to that. Like, she wanted that conversation to be over, and it was like she was saying something to end the conversation, which just didn't seem entirely fair, especially given how confusing it has been and how, he made a point that it's like, well, we've always been different, so what changed? And she's not giving him an explanation. And yeah, it just felt a little like manipulative. It felt a little, I was like, ooh, yikes. We love to see the return of Jo, of course. I like that she knocked some sense into Diana. Diana was in desperate need of some sense being knocked into her, and Jo was happy to oblige. Thank the Lord, she's an icon and a legend for that. I also do find Diana's particular journey with like whether to go to finishing school or get an education very interesting, because it doesn't seem like she really has that big of a preference, but it's like somewhere in the middle, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think she's like overtly really hoping for an education, but I also don't think she's really overtly hoping to go to finishing school either. So she's kind of in the middle, but she's not able to be flexible with that. She's not able to kind of contemplate that. It's like, oh, pick a lane, pick a side. You have to make a choice. She can't really contemplate or do self-introspection about what it is that she actually wants and what actually appeals to her. I just don't think she knows what she wants, but she's being forced to choose before she even knows. But again, I just find it interesting that she's kind of like nebulous. She doesn't really have a preference that she's discovered yet for either or. But that's why it was good that Jo was like, no, you need to keep your options open. You need to do this thing, you need to go take this test so that your options can be open and you're not stuck. The standardized testing sequence was hilarious. It was triggering though. It really was triggering. I was like, oh my God, this is taking me back. And I'm sure it's even higher stakes back then. There's a lot less opportunities. So this is a very big deal to them. We had a few cute little Cuthbert moments between our little family, which I love to see. But you know what I actually love about it is that it's such an inconsequential part of the episode. It's become such the norm that it is not remarkable. It's not something that stands out to me. It's not something that I think to point out necessarily, because they're just such a family unit. They have just been so strong for so long now that they just are a family. You know what I mean? Like, they love each other. They're there for each other. It's just commonplace. The conversation between Miss Stacy and Sebastian was very interesting. I am curious about where they're going with that, but I did find the parallels that they were drawing between the two of them very interesting, with kind of like a discrimination or prejudice, people underestimating them, or them not fitting in completely, the kinship there between the two of them that they both experienced, obviously in different ways, because one is based on racism and the other misogyny, but similarly, they are like kind of outcasts of society and they haven't been completely welcomed in this place, and so they do share that in common. So I found that very interesting, and I just am interested about it, because there was a minute there I was like, interesting. What's the point of this? Why are we having them meet up? You know what I mean? It could just be their bestie boos bonding over this, but, I just thought it was a very interesting combination of characters that I hadn't really thought of putting together before, even in a scene. But once you think about it, you're like, oh no, that does make sense. They are both kind of like outcasts. They are both kind of like in some of the similar positions and have an understanding of each other's experience within society. Gilbert almost proposing is crazy. This is yet another thing that just came out of fucking nowhere to me. I was like, okay, well, not out of nowhere. They have been setting it up, but again, it just felt so quick. And also, a proposal is a crazy, like, that's just such a huge jump. That's such a huge step. I'm like, whoa, we're talking about marriage all of a sudden. Like, what are you talking about? This is so crazy. But, I like that he has this good option where it's like he does have the opportunity to have a good life with Winifred, because they do get along and she is lovely and she is attractive. And he would also be getting all these advantages and privileges from his in-laws and achieving his dreams and purpose. And I love that Anne noticed that as well, and that she was considerate of that when she was thinking about her response to it and her part in it as well. Because that is something that you run the risk of. You're like, well, I need to be sure about this, otherwise I might be like ruining your life. And both of them are like having to decide what's more important to them, what they are prioritizing. But yeah, even though it feels like very quick and very sudden, it's definitely an appealing offer. It's tempting. I like that they made it that way, because then it makes the decision harder and it makes it easier for the audience to understand a struggle that Gilbert's having and why he might actually be taking actions to propose, or why he might decide that proposing to Winifred is the right choice. You can see his thought process behind that in this. I also thought the drinking was crazy. What, since when are all these kids drinking? I know they're a little older now, but that was just not a thing the entire series. So then, like, Gilbert, like, smoking a cigar and drinking a brandy or whatever with Winifred's dad, and then all those kids chugging whatever that liquor was after their exams, I was just like, whoa, when did this enter the function? When did this enter the equation? Because the only type of alcohol we've had in this, for kids at least, was that one episode where Diana and Anne accidentally got drunk, and they got in so much trouble. Like, their friendship was ended temporarily because of that. Because it was so scandalous and so bad. So then, like, everyone doing it, all of a sudden, when we really haven't seen a build-up to that, I was like, whoa. Okay, I guess they're trying to be like, oh, they're older now. They're, like, semi-adults. I guess they've been weaving that in with, like, the storyline of, like, courting and being of the age to marry. I guess that kind of coincides with the more adult side of it. But it just, I was like, whoa. I was like, since when? Since when has this happened? I really loved Joe's whole monologue about love. That was so well written. That was so insightful. Such a period. Such a good thesis statement. Like, everything about it. I mean, everything that comes out of her mouth is just such a period. It's not even funny. So I loved every second of that. That was so well written. So true. So real. So inspirational. So helpful. It was, very comforting to, that's one of the trademarks of this show, is those kinds of speeches, those kinds of introspections and examinations of life and love and family and society. Sebastian celebrating at knowing that it was Anne all along, me and him are one and the same. You know what I mean? We're right on the same page. I'm like, yes, Sebastian, we have always been like this. Like, we share the same brain cell, because I am glad that he noticed that. I would find it a bit ridiculous if nobody had noticed it, especially Sebastian, because he is more of a peripheral. He has like a wider perspective on it since he entered Gilbert's life at this point, and he's more of like a brother figure. I think he can see things maybe a little bit more clearly than maybe someone a little closer, like a parent, would be able to. But yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate. It's yet again another like miscommunication, bad timing thing with Gilbert and Anne, because she didn't actually say no, and she felt very bombarded and overwhelmed. Like, how was she even supposed to give an answer? But of course, like, Gilbert took that as rejection, and they just weren't able to process it. They weren't really communicating well. They were misunderstanding each other. It just is like kind of a mess. Which is classic. Of course they're doing this. Of course it's the miscommunication trope. Although I do have to say it's getting a little bit tiring to me in this dynamic in particular. Then we had Rachel, getting some women on the board. Love to see it. I mean, like that they finessed it that way. I like to see women being resourceful and, doing what they can with what they have, which is what they had to do back then. You know what I mean? It's a pretty realistic, like, loophole, or I'm sure course of action that would be taken back then if women were trying to gain some more power. You can't really just do it directly. So I liked the kind of scheme, I guess, to inadvertently grab whatever scrap of power they could. And I don't know what it'll do to have women on the board with those men there, but, progress. We love to see it. Diana's apology was good, and like her conversation with Minnie May, making her realize her faults and the way that she's been acting, and her going, Joe helping her and her going to take the test to have those options. All of that like arc was good for her. I was glad to see a return to form for her. I definitely, was not comfortable with the way that she was behaving in the first part of the episode, so it's much better to see her being introspective and, realizing her faults and kind of realizing what she wants and prioritizing that and being brave with that. And of course, the reunion between Anne and Diana was as dramatic as ever. They are so dramatic. It will never fail to amaze me. They are truly So dramatic. As for the Coquette storyline, like, I don't even know what to say about it. It's just, it is what it is. I am not surprised, generally speaking, unfortunately, but it is upsetting to see. And there are moments where I, like, have a shocked face, right? Like, at her calling them names and the certain, like, derogatory terms and rhetoric that's used around the tribe it's not shocking to me. Of course people were doing this. Of course people were referring to them that way. Of course that's what was happening. Like, we know this. This is, like, historical. This is real. This is still a problem in many ways today. But nonetheless, it's just like, I guess maybe it's an affront to humanity. The humanity in me is battling the cynical, hardened, logical side of me that has lived in a society. You know what I mean? I'm like, I just am like, what is wrong with you? There is still that empathy there where it's just like, it's unbelievable. It is unbelievable that people have that hatred in their heart and think that way and see people that way. It's just like unfathomable. Of course, I understand that it does indeed exist and it's very prevalent, in fact. But again, to me, I'm just like, what is happening? Because I just can't. It's such an interesting kind of dilemma and dynamic because, again, I understand it, but I also could not understand it any less. I am glad that she made it back to her family. That poor little girl, like, that was such a journey. Like, oh, God. But, you know, it was really good to see her parents reuniting with her. That was very sweet. I'm glad that she made it back. It's to be continued on that storyline, I guess, because I just have a feeling it's not going to end there, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, it's terrible. It's awful. And someone did tell me to look up some of the history on this, and I did do a little bit of research into the history, especially in, like, Canada particularly. And yeah, it's just awful. Like, I don't even know what I can add to the conversation, honestly, because it's terrible. And I hate to see it. But I mean, I guess it's good that it's in a show, right? Like, that these types of things are being represented and shown in media. That is always going to be beneficial in the long run, I think, probably. But yeah, I just want her to be safe. I just, you know, and I just, unfortunately, I don't know that I think that's going to happen. I don't know that I see that happening at all. You know what I mean? And that is just tragic. That's terrible. I really wish it was different. But again, I, like, admire and appreciate that it is realistic. Like, it's like, no, this is what happened to people. This happened. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't all happy ever afters. It was, like, very rarely, in fact, any of those. So it's a realistic portrayal for sure, I feel. But it's not pleasant to watch. But I'm not mad at it generally being included in the storyline. And then, you know, the moment we've all been waiting for, the episode ends with Anne's realization. Somehow, now she's just realizing that she's in love with Gilbert Blythe and has been all this time. And you know what? I'm glad to see her come to that conclusion, even if it is way too late. I would like to see it. So those are just general thoughts about this episode. Let me know your thoughts down below. Again, my Patreon will be linked in the description down below. If you are interested in seeing full-length versions of Anne with E, I have every single one of the episodes up there. I have filmed episode 9, and I will be posting that to Patreon soon as well, and then I will soon film the finale, which will be really crazy, so emotional. But again, I just want to thank everybody for the continued support and patience and understanding with this. It is so appreciated. I actually can't even articulate how much it is, and just know that I still love this show, and I'm still dedicated to finishing it. We're gonna get it done. We're gonna go through it. We're gonna, you know, finish it together. So look forward to that, and I will see y'all for the next Anne with an E.